미팅 아주 그냥 뭐 프랑스랑 아주 소바 들다서 이게 이인다 제가
Did Nizia mix a Yamsamun de Hadrosum?
비게 nga training di it's somewhere like a training ba e shugo that wangja tabju gyalsun lagi wangja smia tanda chigore ba pocho de lungsha go wangja smia tanda chigore shugo de golo etsenga 지주 사고 배배나는데 두유 녀면 여러 던서 강가 손에 지주 사고
Cousin Gelagi tentative Tendola Yamdo and Tuyu Yotan Gelatin to Delmego to Sumbuda.
but gyalsun did he had left
Imata, Injimji Deo Yoga Chigla, Sane Chigla Guyumara, Hong Kong La Sugar in the Teo.
man Koran did see Harikim Mursana Hong Kong stock exchange deal he wanted to really make page he lost a huge amount of
Hong Kong Resident Song and the Lenio is a
yeah
and the Nima and the Penangola, Pemashongola, Penangola, Aratangati, Lugudi, and the Ara King it into Chimbadan Dinalola. Chimbazon Resunguda, Kudadan Zilla.
Lungsha chesan ingma imbe ma cha Koran dindel chita dire mo jabiata tu jabiata de shira ingwe
Lungshar Pushi di Chilong Joksum Napa, England, Lobjon Nanga TV Sorachita Mamboki Taran Kualingira, Nek Gablo Ginetu di Yangun Joksumba, George Five La, Pedi Rangzimba, Kellen Rochis, Gagatando.
between the 13th Dalai Lama ta Benjamin chi porula rogdum songe chik lungsha insigota Benjamin chi yana pebo Koran hadu shibuchi kyonga
Lungshala Poshu Chara, the Zibe, Ukran, and the commander Chara. D to the Caps cutting and Sakan as a common big substance. Prang you put Gampa the Gang come up or couldn't jung up by Yangsi. Gang come up or couldn't you do by Munzinche, Kizar Shumba. And Dilla Gangudi Josum by the like a Pluto's chair.
but nga lungsha ge nane Koran's family nane nga sul admiration halu
Halugi Lungsha would have triggered the season.
meaning mo tugmarwa
Can I get the Mares to Henderson?
Marison because you have to look at the evidence you know why the Goldstein ge tep du loga that's the two the shige leftist ge lu jera well lebana lugar
Lungshargi Nangu Mangu Nangon, that chick the Yaga Inchura. Can I get somewhere this color?
no but di marta di ando 총겨야 말봐 and I'm not very fond of kuja komela concentrate basic
Can I Dimaraya? Sarong giving Gachin and the dead.
yeah but no but the thing is I think Taro was a great guy you know
Sarong Ganagi Pola Chavoro.
Mara that pija thone marta kunja family dinner he went into that one but that didn't matter that you can't discuss history like that Tharong is not related Tharong was the big humor yeah
Niborudela, ye Petri the Chichoka.
are you recording nge easy mango shi dewu no cha ka nga ka nang
Did that Nanda Yaman?
ngani 다가 ngani gapshap chigi warsan kunjo Shuma the dictation to
La.
you know how much it costs total $7 did the Home Depot kunjo workman the lamp terba clamp che gasakal the chene kana three other topic ro khari su dangal
La.
bang chen
Topic
to be quite honest my memory is going here. So, I mean, if I have to consult anything, I might better do it earlier. I remembered everything, but age, when I'm 76. Memory,
Kilang Tirwa podcast. Listen, somebody. 자기 돈은 냐마직 제 고급 중다. 그지 이동 이슈. 자니 작숨 찍는데요. 이동 섭실랑이.
Oh, you're in Canada, right?
네, 디다 니 좀 이거 슈셔. 디디 탭디 캔달 라기에입니다. 탭디 말로 아니 가면
근데 니네 그냥 topic 로디 그 대화 매개서
네.
대가 건데 네 건데 뭔가 지기 쉬운 거 아시라 시기 야 저번 롱바가 대표래 그러나 안 돼. that 맞아 that problem is still there 녀마치 디토리 야 워시라 그 you know you have the right to do anything right in this country right
네.
marang pin shout term dior you know right I mean a lot of people it's a free country right but the Tibetan dance it is right Kora convention that Rotancho. Right? And quite you don't have to follow everything. The problem is becoming more like a kind of disco thing. Music it's with the beat there's kind of disco. Boom, 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 boom. And it's all kind of artificial music. Right? And most important thing is when you know the Nandrichi Kasre. They should all be able to sing that. They could teach and photocopy and test and do photocopy. You can just send it to their phones.
그래서 네가 나가서 니만 가면 빅스 중으로와. 근데 네가 나 십차스는 다 드라마고 네가 나가라 시즈스케 말아. 지금 걔나 님도 양 딘데랑 거라 겹종하고 요거지 님도 드링 쳐이나 고
Yeah, that's 이제 내가 건데 티니 건도 처담 세 먹고 시야서 그래.
지네레 다디 컴퓨터나 다 망고 트레서 지네레 양 아주 근데 다이지다 들 망고 스타 딘데기 돈이야 삼르스탄스나 코 셈감 기 트레딘레 슈퍼 트레딘다 딘데라 징양 페버 루루 차이기양 땡저치다 레도디
레타
야기다 다 망고
망고치기 디 럽고도 페바로 루치야다 직 로충어서 망고치 Yeah, okay, that Liang I call it positive rich but the main thing is like for us that we spent decades working to preserve, right? To protect Tibetan performing traditions, right? Give me better. Now the catch Gyana and Haza Dogas that she had the double. There are more conscientious artists who are really trying to do Tibetan stuff. Kata and she said, you know, where are we going? Anyway, that's over. That's another thing.
Yeah. 정말 길라 podcast listen 직
Let's see. And you know, there had this mazang. Oh, that reminds me. Had the Columbia performing tradition to Chunchi organize. But can't New York be?
매매매 대 청하다 미가 제도 나스 제레라
Okay.
디나는다 군전 당시에 기나 제 고업 중나 등을 딘데 삼뉴 발갑질랑 아래 부진주기 삼노 도시라 뭐지 게나라 딘데 지슈 딘데 직스디도질라 니 아니 네주 가시지 간랑 랑게 티슬로 딘데 직스 게나라 토픽 로가 걸라 딘데 가시 슈좀 니 게나기 슈고 팟캐스트 고츠르와 가진 된다 니자랑 레다 사도 에시아기 팟캐스트 레젠 타마디 된다 디콜라라 디낭 팟캐스트 라 벽에 돈이 칼람날에 야고레 시킬라게
they to invent chevra. They uzuke you know, that's like duta swa. But someone has come up with something else.
된다 별라 페이지기 카다스지 표준한 거다. 카다 랍자레 카다 제와스 이제 별라 니마 참배 카다라로다 별낭로 카다 대한 숙청 표준한 거다.
카디 카체. 다디
파우라다다다 말아. 진우 파우라다다다라. 카다. 좋아. 카다스지 표준한 거다. 다양 진주 지소 낭로라 팅상 벨담스제 양 야고도 소니 같이 있다. 딜라양 삼주 망고도 가시기라나 벨담스제라도 고 양탁베담 양 랭주 딘데라 표주제로 시레송고다 탭티베 값소 안티 미지기 개베 벨담로 딘데지. 다 딜라양 가시기 양 디송고다. 다 나란줄라 칭믹세 메버인디 고 칭닝버지라 속사오로 스테이지 디표주제네 야고도 님보에도 이제 소니 같이 주고.
But 쟤네 건조 뭐지 podcast meaning 주문에 들어봐. The idea is cast broadcast gangda. You know, broadcast, radio broadcast, and then you know all this microphone broadcasting the caption then podcast the seed pod so it's like just a much smaller version. between one or two individuals ba
dudak sumra
do the the pod say
kazinga dikana kami chungde kashigi ti durang mare til di res guda
Kandis
durang do di this ti til pots che sungdu ta til di sungore
mare the kept ba nganzu the ji khasre ku grain gi chilo char pakpate ba the inji pods gi ba ye the explain che semje ge busta gala bu chilo matyo kone kore pot china yor ba
dila du gina gi tsigur nang ra
that I just took the because in the inji the idea I like the idea that chunju chik toneta ma tungu ba but that it is not a radio broadcast which requires a nation or a company or chigarba. They task individual chunju tone.
근데 시리기 양 포닥 스테이지 그다
See,
시리기 시리 레군 팟캐스트 라 포닥 레
what why?
포닥 자디 다랑 레도아 포디 포도지 멘도 따디 금센스 딩 타고스타 게 대충마스테 지넬 포닥 스지 그다 건지
That did it. And to tell, it's like, and this is the book I can explain about. The book that I finished. A lot of this, the Tim K. Tamade, it's what people use. And she yakshadi she kasre. Mika now do it'll survive. But then to tell Tawata che yomarba. Samdorum chingema nanda di mangzo di pevengalda utu yemyo ba. So first thing he did as a convertiver, mangzo chi pechutanyo ba. You know the gemi dine yombres. When they say madi they really don't do any research. This is the problem with geshis. What they see in the page they believe, right? 렘버체 기서나 데디 게미네리 게미마 싸우는 말 버버 터지랑 콘트 되게 1940s 와 비추던 거 you know
근데
망도 세요 you know and it comes basically it's a direct translation from the Greek that's a democracy se chaba demos it mangs it doesn't mean public or anything am in a demos it that there's no you know right kuda memberche ngaji pepe mangsia chobra 강도 고마워 와디 망르와 그래서 망들와 쪼디 쪼치쇼들와 so that actually is a very beautiful direct translation from Greek and of course direct translations don't always work 와 제가 안데 case it really works 다른 뭐지 망들는 which means majority and majority rules 야디 맞지 말와 actually so 제네 라메 타마데 코라미 파월 유틴 강게 이제 망조 말로 인데 깨데 마 마스타자 망조인 politically succeed 샬 잉여때 팀무지 캐스에 됐을 때 뭐지 이 페이지 자바 인사디 자바 망들 배주디 망디 뜬거라 망주 자망 세죠라 and also 잡을 망자요라 렘부지 디 temporary respect 망자 된제라 칼 식진 다란 따고 있어 but yeah anyway it's like
다 디가서 변낭로라 있나 다미 변미 숙제디 변낭로 이디야 변낭로라 디 숙침보다 지다 카다스지제 대양
근데 그 카다스지도 해
라운 카다스지지 송구다 니 등은 카다스지 비주낭도 톡쇼 송구메나도 삼사 제넬 콘주기 팟캐스트에 양가시기 디 그르고스 케미도 팟캐스트 랑자 샹네 딕샤 송이
디 이지미지 듀르고요 마데 but the thing is 듀르파 이나르바 or you take a podcast ranti 마자디 녀로 삼면 와 라비아 이지
랭메라네 랭메 레세 랭메 시젤 코양 수수 가르 델려도 싫어 아니 삼삼 랭메 시젤 삼삼
the podcast idea actually comes that it should be a little smaller thing private that it is so chick imbatraba number. That's it. Anyway, so
now
that kadnage.
re kazin tenda kina da ugen kazin dinanglo la chik rollings nang shu do ni ugen di kunre re sams
No, that he kaya mar I was hogging the conversation. I tend to do that. Just me nga swatam shradan.
ni kela ugen din shu ugen kamen nang ni do chire samsa di ugen
No, that jema that hani we are learning also. Can I know sing at the cab chaya mar ra. Can I luba ga chesa ra. Che doctor say so ba jev
re ni ngazo ngada di ni ju chunjur wa nyok das ne kila da ni ma tri la samcha chimbu de di ta di ga na nyamnyu ngale che mangu sa ya ra ngazi da nyok da se pu
no,
ji
but it's still right. The guts thing hungry. You have to accept it.
No.
Otherwise, you don't get in this game, Right?
re da changma da
No, and get it how can the mistake with this, the saying they're perfectly innocent. And the poem among the podcasters Sigmer were basically merely insult she has such resha. Kozganga can't tenze during yenze she has such mother. They really have nothing to say. Right?
gelagi tenda lengme le zen jo phenang lo ni gdo konju ki thona rang che che kajin ni ta ki kondo shu na sire kajin ching se la gi ngala tinte lench kursa pate shuj kame jo ke chimbo reshas kang chu ni tu tu ji ni gyes didu morang gi dis ngodo nga didu ngazo ko nangme ro che di yen la tuma sha mo sha di tonas ke chi ko ma ke jarang go khor che di gyura kunzo bet mog la tonan che chi je dinanglo la mog ni de la I love New York che ti tar I love New York che t-shirts na te chin ta dingal yob
Oh, ngal su
pyo nanglo la karsa Tibet sa ji di thwe inde khago dusra di I love Tibet la nishana ya khodo as che ala ta de shukursa
dide yo de me. Gansu chik dide mag so company chimbo de so so mag sugur ba. Gansu dide soya ke me ba. Dina ne gansu New Yorker ba basically.
I love nu tang chu samsam ngaranzo di ke ti mene samsam mi gi tuklo dang khazagal tunanan gida majo ko
The concert kaya ma in three was like when I think she's totally bored over there, Chia ke bored.
trian dir da podalagi tich
Gare do.
tri podalagi ti
Oh, they talk to style kuch ji. Koi pyo geda yor ta de.
那卡上年前他们你过来就去年比，但是学过可能忙不上的也不多，那谁等你讲可能的啊，的可能给 glass 插通呀给的干一的当New York 这个话，但是因为Tibet 原来也不是。
I think chik de pyo chik khare mock se la.
mo
Chiso ning ne mock re. Pyo na le paru konza klasa so mongo chi mock sigi sangya ma. Di namsa yo chi ma so sa. Ta glass se chorwa. Chak glass se chorwa. Di chige ne lemb tagarar ba wanzangya ma tangbele. Anyway, like we'll discuss that later, but
tanda on
kira ga the tiwa khari na ba.
ni di samsta tanda dinzo kamre du choi chi chi le sa chidang gela ngem do kamre shuna ta mangbu shu ya de ning mara tingang la captions ke mi du tanda nga dila parkap chila nga dila dis tunan le desh kajin gela da ugen tanda di phen nang lo la tanda cheri thadang jorwa di ko la kamre bix nang do shugo nga tanda rang zo chi su pepe thawa choose ti dam chi emory la tang do konzo 민주 낭론이 개인 탑기라 중에 지금 또 감매 중사 genagi 승에 나가자 먼저 genang 저 감매 중에 갑서 먼저 표 쇼레 디베트 표라 체리 라글레 야부 따르마토치 표 쇼르샤스 지 genang이 랭메도 중사 이게 가진 디니아
I know the Emory the kundu ki program chwa.
now 딘지게 저 scholars 저 가진 된다 genada 우인 감매 중사 디니아 트레지지 디낭론이 된다 따디 콘조 부시디 티 동에 저라 England la Lungshar Kurangi logi dunzo interesting doa ngena di nanglo la medu nang manang mangbo doa dunzo ine di gyabjong di nganzo mangbo ji Lungshar pu shi di jiglong gubke choksum la pa England la lobjon nang ga tiwe sora chita mangbo ki tharang kwalin gyora ine gyablo gi ne tu di yangunun choksum ba gi George 5 la di pödi rangzen ba kelen ro chi si ji yigi kega tang doa dinma kame chuchung na samsa di che an dini tanda di yigi di nanglo la kun tanda handena rwe kurang ki gyu do che rangzen di yagurang gyurma tu do che di gi yigi di dawuji tanda Russia shugure Soviet Union urusu that Soviet Union ra di urusu la tang pila derjif rwe page yigi di pila rangzen rang ko do dinma kame
But Dojiev he was a much more knowledgeable, accomplished. Lungshar he doesn't have any background.
Lungshar inji shingmedu inji ko kegyu digi ko tsigdi yago shikurmunda.
And he's not only ichi mashim chugoma. This is one thing that pebaso kanga pebechizona revolutionary ruchi gondo shivichigodo. Like chigarwa, and they go to Western school. Wow, revolutionary man, Karl Marx man. Pebena yomar ba. Metu sugudo ba. So like Lungshar was ichi mashim chugoma. He was not really. You look at his life, right? The maza began start, right? That Konanga did you interest which came in
Karila.
Modernization, like minimum switching, like Pevan Nala, Kata, even with Sarong at they do some things, right? Some projects, right? They'd buy a radio at least, Chigarwa.
Lungshar yen dirwa.
He was more like he was into music, and he was basically a political opportunity, politician.
Kurang mashni jingni da tanda gyanguni choksum gi da pet to masni sum nanglo ni chik da Lungshar che kumbela che sarong da sandam de che gyura. Kurang ni kumbela da sarong imba yisna ta miso gyumani ya legyo rochra. Lungshar kurang da kurang ki gyuba kura gyanguni ngawani che ma chik de
They wanted the Takanjo Kasa Debemitar, they were sort of higher up.
Actually, Chennai tena ngi kami shwe di penashna tanganzu mangbuji Kuranzo England la tenda rugby boys kunzo pushi di pa tiga do do chi la manga tunang di do ine kyablo ki ta neju do di
He was supposed to have the Lungba Shandala Chikasa Dewa Chiata, Dunzu Tola, Lungshal Tende Kundu ki Tapshidu Karine. And he did make some effort, but they were not very useful. But he did make the attempt, Didn't that's just a modern member the Carlos. Koran the wife the book hito yorba. Did you pal law? I said Chigel book they trust say what I mean on cheeks. I checked, and he was also like, on one side he was a very skilled politician. And he's very skillful. He controlled it, the parliament because he was also a secretary. The main secretary, chief secretary, and he controlled a lot of and then he was also like very close to the monasteries. And the monasteries hated Sarong and Kumbila because they didn't want the military. They didn't want military representation. They wanted a seat, at least 1 or 2 seats in the parliament. That it was like, yeah, of course. It's not like a modern parliament, Marba. Different organization represent Chias. Then Dina Kairosana, Shingso, Jakso, Musu Serso Denzo Gangala, Koran's representation. gomba gangal representation you are. Sera debun ganda chigo mata. Lingshi dunsu gangal you are. They're very powerful. That's what the monastery ge representation ge shukshaya. Be pursa yamare. So when the military said they wanted representation, the new military, they are gomba shara upos. So it's like Lungshar
Quran pe England la shu devi cups Quran gyalo la tanda kena ki so re pa injirang ki so dindi tang lo yun do.
yeah, they're keeping an eye on it.
Kung to shi on du nyama tanda pemba gelen shu go pa England la lobjo na pe du pi nang lo document kashi dindi t-shirts je dindi tem nang ko do.
No, the documents is they are keeping an eye on it. Egypt, they don't want Tibetans to chigi rungma manguchil dewa chindu. They wanted a complete monopoly. So Lungshar konje not a nangsha, but also like he wasn't training, he wasn't very kind of changbo about it. The British and all knew what he was doing. The Shatas Dewan na ne pine Dewa dine Thandas ke toyo mare. Ngana sul dikap de ine di nye ne ta khasura ngana sul representation the Japan that they are dine shra ke toyo mare. It was mostly religious. The emperors tang cherry pure.
진에 디기 중국다 masne zodi ta 양군의 조선바 지동국 개주니 중니 봐도 다 칼로 도질링이 캡주슈 디디 베게 된다 십지 슈니 슈라 비는 된다 인지기 구잡로죠라 그랑기 encourage 남겨로지
Bell, Charles Bell. But he chuko marta. Kundu choksomgi dojiling ngel ba. Young husband expedition le ba. 1904 ba. Ditu kundu turn up ba. Kundu da 차롱 다산 능도 또 kundu te shepje du tije. Koto 가가 소규를 turn up. 소포 게사 딱 베베 딱 그래서 봐. 피게 한다디 가지고 소포 컨트롤 하면 얘네면 되게 먼저 주시 자원을 치르도 요래. 군두다 군이다 전부요. 이 맞아 우리 군두 가면도 he was very badly behaved. 군두 유대 구시업을 가야 뭐 쉽지. 맞아 결혼지 피티 코로나를 부어땡에 더 용을 치는 봐. But at least 군두 learned things. Mongolia is a little more close. Ursuda than the scholar than Mongo pick a left. Kundunim do devashin. So Kundu picked up some things. Dina my jana pair. Tishugo. And jana pitu, and then it was the best. Pige mi Mongo Kundu jera leto. Beijing chumar Kundu de shub. And the Wutashan. And the diva Hasore Pepe. Rutenga. The shoot in a bit. I mean, American could play. The President Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, because two behind the Kuzapion, Commerce Shirash. And they were the ones who really advised him properly. Chikta Kasure. Engineer Momatun Cameras. You have to. Kundu ding problem. Kundu, I think. When he got 예보 뭐죠? 경고요. Oppose, and you can't oppose the British Empire. That you have to find a way. Pellet 가르쳐오라. TTS man the inch pige American da shanda to in general ma pit in shine could you realize the British Empire is really big. Ma pit he thought Jana Komasta was quite big, Daniel. And then nothing, right? Basically the Europeans control China, right? And then he sort of realized that he has to. Then Pearl Papitin, these years, Lujun Mat Lever, Citrine, could be so, like, I mean, yeah, he had a lot of problems, but he learned slowly. And then, to the opportunity, he liked Charles Bell. Charlesville Phuket de boyor ba. Kundu nye Bhuchung. The chene kundu stubborn shrayor. I think, and he didn't realize how difficult it was. Did you they really did their best. They couldn't have done more. But Kundu had to find other ways of modernizing Tibet. Not only diplomatically, because diplomatic the British, the main thing is, the most important thing is not Tibet, it's their trade with China. 총 전 Tibet 디퍼르데 콘저 배치했던 거 봐. 배배 랑젠 더 떼스 콘저 잡혔지. They're using Tibet in some ways to keep the Chinese Koran 가서래. Voila, So yeah, I think 13 Dalai Lama he did his best in some ways. I think when
근데 인지라 랑젠라 겹겹치 라디 이게든 좀 마당을 된다 속분염도 그러니 봐줘 긴게 샤워든 좀 딩종 걸라라
yeah, that was around that Tuesday. Yeah. So that 소규를 간저 디 that 지금 옛날 맨에 들다 안다 그러나 도지에프 코란티 시타 벽 도고 옛날 맨에 you was a great guy. The British thing 야 고도 가지고 he's supposed to be a Russian spy. 코란서 someone know. 진짜 도지에프 이제 but
베베 구잠낭이로 돼 도지에프 저거라는
대화를 비게 디장 하나 좀 비게 가려서는 we have 구자 비었다 다 그래 especially we have I forget the name of the Zidung who was there. He was also looking after His Holiness's money. 군주 시라디어 investment. So 속부터 쉬울 봐. Like they give quite a lot of money to His Holiness. That only later they took out, So the representative Jing then they signed the treaty.
되게 베나샤스나 근데 배좀 슈그라 군벨라 제사로 근데 롱샤 군조보루라 근데 믹세기 곰바기 디네저라 커뮤니케이션 픽스 군베 긴dum바기 캡교 레저라 이거나 커뮤니케이션 중사 근데 지금 국제 니스구스라다 롱샤라 파워슈치라라 디 지베 제 그런 근데 커맨더에 차라 di kapskati nganso kelana so kame vixung sams kurang gi phu gyam padi kyang kama pa kuning chunga pa gi yangsi kyang kama pa kuning judu pa munjin che gi keje chungda an dila kyang kuning chosum pa gi dila kyapkyo ros na nga che di migyu di kamsang nanglo la di sik influence to the ne chik le tuna si che dindi gi migyu ros reda Tikola Gila, Yuna.
I sort of roughly heard it.
Shugo di Pugdi Kambetoganima, Mewacha, and Lamsa, Yangudi Chusumbagi di Capona dia Chiduna, and Shugo Yankamabaran Ripido Chilva, this Chune, Tiburula, did it Rocheda. Yankra, Lungshakura, Dichagora, Kasa, Nima Rochmare.
Yingmare. 디나네 코란
자롱부 코란기 타벨라마로디 자르rum부지 고구마디 쳐비서라 타벨라마 슈그레 칼로레 라마테엔로디
But then Lungshar 재산 ingma imbe ma cha 코란 딘델 시타 디레 모자비아다 투자비아다 딘데 시라 ing네 코란기 that is also quite a skill also 코란 딘데 시라 디어레 he didn't have any kind of modern interest. He didn't write anything. And that konzo monguchi ganda bebana lete san the lefty to your wanga te san lokjana. Konzo monguchi lungsha di chin imagine rus nangudwa. Lungsha ki ketchang question be democratize your chicks chick tiyo ma. You don't have any written evidence.
Kecho kundugi di zodro di khatro summary tunda do di khachago.
No, it was actually a power move. It was to really get rid of the senior most the shebe they did Chimim. Trim was very efficient. Tibetan most efficient was Redwan, the administratively, but he was very powerful.
근데 롱샤 쿠란 지병 거 베카순 페나스나 교주 땅에 담았네 벤조라 다 숙침부 차로 근데 차디 먼저 구다다 근데 공바 군대카네 쿠란기 텍스 유지 두 제로 근데
But Chennai, they problem sure. The Quran tax revenue teba duya samlich kodi the disaster chick they did that. Benji rumbuchi la kasure. Teshulombola they had to prepare defense budget and 40% the Teshulombo tewa kelin share. After the Gurkha wars, wa kasin Gurkha ka tango attacks is Teshulombo share. It's the closest one Nepal ne you know. Teshulombo taking care of Rob's limp. They can't really, I don't think it's possible for them to pay the whole thing.
징네 쿠란
Chennai, that Utsu Jaurba. Lungshar the Teshulombo ge, that the Tani Tenishiti in Teshulombo ge Perula, between the 13th Dalai Lama, Penjurumchi Perula, Togdam Sungachik Lungshar Isigata.
말버루라
Lungshata,
마가오 체로 다 롱샤라 칼로레 차도 라운슈 그래 마가오 체로 징네 콘도 텍스 뭐 볼게 제대로 구다솔라
No, it's not. Kota Rahatul, the guest he was going after Teshulombo, that's the main. That was huge money.
구다당
Kutala, their main tax base, the Kariasan, you have to provide food and speak a legaching. Money tax, your mother, Kutani. The Gondekasu used to Konson young pub yorwa, you know. But the Kuta Mang said, Kuta Kona to the Shungshapayatri. That's the problem the Karisan Teshulombo. Then Penjurum Chichi Gana Chiperba. The goal was Pepe, the Nana Chick Shoya the Nabe, which happened to Chigomata. Penjurum Chigana Pebo Koran, Shibuchi Tonga. And Penjurum Chigana Petu Womindang the Takasura, Swearer. 궁대를 쇠래라리. 궁대 몸이 교고 싶지 감 교고 된래 1950s 카바가잖아 지금 링에 같이 맞은 거. 벤처럼 지를 고트가 하르실래 되고. So we gave the 재미를 가지고 군저서 락자 시부지 벤처럼 지라 라마 베베날 second highest 라마디 재미를 때 벤처럼 지 시부들의 politically 경고되는 말이에요. 고민당에는 벤저럼 치스디 시부지야 야야만 남루나 된데 시부지기 되어. 완전 빼교가 아프다디.
디두가 숨막이 돈에 답변하시나 사롱 제란 기동기 생각스러워 롱샤기 개인기 디버루라 군벨라야레 군벨라기 딜라 교주슈다 그런저 버루라 야마직 팅마팅 딘데 파조직 딘데로 치르 스테이지제 마기 볼 디스 튜쇼도
마데 군빌라 깨창고시나 하다디 그냥 네 당고 롱샤 데먹지 셔버 봐. you know.
뭐지 단 주변이자로.
예.
직접
제가 뭐 뒤에다 롱샤게 가르쳐서는 코란 먹지 전도체 딱 차롱 강려로 와. So he has to get rid of 차롱 봐. 단 디체야라 코란이 야오 콘디 쪽 숨게 디지요. 꼼지치. 다고 좀 봤어요. 좀 He was junior commander. 그래서 코란 그 tum봤다 참부차 봐. tumba was useless guy. 예비 생인데. And 코란 감정나 루 to tell the Dalai Lama that but 차롱 강알아 때 누구든 것도 and that he wants to be the commander in chief. And 군디 쪽선 쉬쉬인 군디 쪽선 지 가서래. 차롱을 도발해야지 몇 동안. And so finally there was excuse 가라비나 and 뭐미시 내봤다 않고 씹으러 봐. 차롱기. And they used that as an excuse to get him out. And then they made 다고tumba into 벽 먹지. 먹지는 쇠없다. 그래 딱 봤네. 예비 생겼는데. 근데 예마치 군디 쪽선게 군디 쪽선 used to send out spies 같은 가사가 구라든가 one of them was following the Chumba. Chumba ge kam re kabaro chil chik thetu mesel dapsi tangu do mendos yare to. Konto dit chik to pepenal 공어를 채지는 니뿌 잣인데 자감 열어. 자감 진부 숨 쉬지 이제 네가 거진으로 띵. And 공어 has to climb and then get on his horse. And then we go. 그래서 공어 두스나도 남사 공어 두스 채서도 공어 쉽지도 가가 자감도 눕소를 없어. You know? They take it. So that they could show some spy see Thondup. And he reported back. And Kunti Chokson called his nephew. Nephew Chirisha. Noblinga. Tagara dismissed another. And then he made Lungshar commander.
Lungshar ma phabe di yang sharba ki nyokta dita joyora.
I think it was, you know, there's already a problem with Nepal. Nepal the Pogma do just two sabra. And Koran gigante the Shabakarsa coming. Kuma Kanzu Sakat Mari, Kokuma Kanzuma. This is Shapa something or other. Simperba. Dina
Alcohol and chongudu slava.
Tobacco tungi. Alcohol don't show up. Tama tungudus. In Nepali Kuzab Treva. And Tretu Pine Kuzab Narmamita Tambra, Lungshak. And that, to be quite honest, even by international standards, you can't do that. Dumbo Shandagi, Shungzab di Koti Korea Saja Socherba. And the Nepal Yamda Yangya Malang Cher. That they in Udur, and they told Dalai Lama, you can't do this. Because Nepal, they Inji Dirba, allies of Cherba, and did you test Nezu Tar, Chin, Ijitan, Nepal, Paruchil test Nota. Did you do anything? What did Kundil Kanaya Omarba? And Lungshar was, you know, Chukchangborta. But then the problem is Kundu had to leave him. They had to acknowledge that Tibet was wrong. And but Lungshar Kurai, he was not the Lela Marunich Dina wish Dabkurwa. And he started the Kiju Kundu.
Kuran de makchin ma pa bi ne tsibin ranjar ro.
Rich,
Shugo tenda Kuran gi phulalu ta didu yang diro ro kusunga ro. Kusunga ro.
Kusuma Ganare.
Kusunga. Tende ro che Kuran di gi gyuni tenda chense dijin ingsel ta sunam no sije. Kuran gi gyuni lalu gi gyuni ya di che chense shu. Lungshar Kuran di tsibin ma gongba shu gi sije. Di chidu ani 공부 마슈나 야고 두스 다 결혼치 갈리갈리 개인시에 디디스 뉴탄지제 꼭보고다 그러니 실령고에 기차시도 쓰제 꼭라든데 숨을 규시다
여러분에게
결혼지기 된다 진세요라 군이 균이 된다 할룰라 시 할루기 디디치데는 된다 집에는 공부 마슈었지 안디 버룰라 군펠라게.
No, but the thing is, see, and that issue to all you know, the problem is Lungshar ke pebetol and accomplishments to chorba. Garanto diti ye kasi and garanto the last kind of discussion I had with on the iPod gun. The main thing was military. These shook men a kaporta. And the gadget and to the military told the shook thing air chick the tarongre shook short. Kumbila the Neke Mare, Chenekorangi, at least one regiment, how much raised it to it. Did you yes, I'm not Tongra Maga Ratata, did you tell me you're not chamdol time, 아주 근데 패칭 아주 뉴욕으로 돼요. 말다 레서 계시는데.
통다마가
참마야. 인지든도 가셔기 섹션도 있어. 야가나 인지 뭐마도 quality 셔와. Because you have to spend money, right? Lungshar he really hated the military. But the problem is military men 가르쳐 그래. 아주 랑제도. Diplomacy 다 강지 돈 Lungshar 그런 diplomat 말해. He never was very skilled diplomat. 치개념을 대화나야 능겨 말해. 치개념도 즉 근데 배배한다 reform the modernization project 는 소요 봐. Telegraph, electricity, post office tuya, laptop tuya, that was going on. Koran chito kor meba dene. He was not involved in anyone, you know. Koran gomba tunzo nyemdo shi. That was his power base. Koran power base the gomba re. Koran kuta nyemdo shira. Koran kuta yine kuta nyemdo shira di yomarta. Because most of the kuta, or at least their nephews and sons and all were military. Did you many
통다마가 나이라.
program 가지고 말다. 지단에 did you 뭐 숙좀 시라샤로 버르질. 봐. 구리 쪽숨 뭐. 디나네다 구리 쪽숨 갑들 한다. 재미 빙에 태날. 다들 저 감름마 정에도 가가 가서래. 구라도 가가 tor 차고 안다 사로. So that was the and the kuta power based the military there. Gonde Castle di Omarwa. But then Halu and the Gombas managed to sabotage the army. The army project, Kudichok Kule Kyamba Danzaka, Yamachik Natata Zerta. So there's a problem here, you know. And the Lungshar Ge and the Kiju Kundu said there, Koran Chitung Kuda Lochunga Danzomanguchila. The top down under regimentus. They did it. They wanted better posting, better opportunities. Dimato democratized. Kashak disigluan democratized CRS and there's no evidence for that. And Kashak Goldstein the secretly Koran someone did you're talking history. You know, meaning more to Marwa.
게나기 디 마레스 제 컨디션도.
Marison, because you have to look at the evidence. What was he doing? Quran got the modernization, like a chinjiru. You know, look at all the, like even under the Yaukuni Choksumta, Quran Lamemba Kundre, Menzikan Saba Zuburwa. They're trying to set up a modern medical system. Pugutu, the Chibe nurtures the Yorba. Pugu Chinju don't go the Chiarwa. Sorry. Penal infant mortality higher. They realize that. So they combat here. Chibe nurtures a program sooner. They tape this. The la member gets on Naya or Chazum Naya. And then it's available. Mexican Sungre. So these are all, I think, you have to judge people by what they do. Not what their milieu is.
믹스기 팅선 슌게란다 말때 믹스기 레프티스 슈라 망부치기 한 룽샤라 따당 디티스 디다 히로란다 말때 디스 따당 야가로스다
The Goldstein ki tep du logo. That's the two the chige leftist ke lujera. Pebel lebana lugar. You know.
게나 맞다 룽샤기 낭조 망부 낭론 따 찍다 야가 인초라 게나기 상화양 디스 칼로레
No, but di marta. Di ando 총계야 말. enge test kara. Okay, I'll get kana. Angani kun now dumdu ga yun. I am thinking in terms tamade what happened to us.
맞아
If we had a strong military, and I'm not very fond of Kuja Kumbila. Concentrate basically.
게나 디 말아야 사롱 기빈가체네 안데
Yeah, but no. But the thing is, I think Tharong was a great guy. You know,
사롱 게나기 폴라 차고라
Mara that Pija Thone Marta. Kunja family dinner, he went into that. But that didn't matter. That you can't discuss history like that. Tharong is not related. Tharong was the meek humor. Mesirwa, you know. But he did great things.
야
But at that, Pivanala, They want some kind of some kind of leftist figure. And the Goldstein called it Nazayo, Goldstein Zabi. That near the Goldstein called Tibetan, Su Lang to Pevena. Pevena young and the leftist and Sunda, Nancy Jeptarwa. Yomar. Goldstein did his jumping to the desk. He didn't write any more article cancer, you know. You can't go by what your childhood. Left child, it was like the cause. We are living in a colonial society in India. But then you study what's going on in China, right? And nobody has done that. And the people not chung su ine, right? The and Dawa Nobula konju tep de wa tangbu de kasa. His first book. Kona dinale the Lungshar Cortez diyor.
Tibetan to Red Star, correct?
Red Star over Tibet. Dinale diyor. Kona ya tes kaya ma because Kona labra to sa the homes ngechar ba Kalimpong homes. Dina Lungshar ki said the phi le kapi. And they talked about Lungshar, and he must have praised it. And that I don't mind. Right? So power so yine di Tibachar. But nga Lungshar ge nane Kona's family nane nga sul admiration.
Hello, Lungshar would like to go to Caesar. Puinangola.
No, I haven't seen it.
Puinangol tenda. Dinangle tendang Shuejura. And Jensen did a commutation, Grand Zibin, no Pablo cheese, Shued into Dinangola, good dog.
No. For me, like these are like whatever he says, right? It's not so important as the fact that he stopped the Chinese. Right? We mustn't forget the bigger things, you know. Kurang one pek luatan chapter. Ngap chu ngagule zingbere. Kurang simshane menda jabsiga. Kurang chamge brand gun in jabsiga to. So ngana lechu dugutam ta jemi. He is the only Kuda who was publicly struggled chachor. Thamsi na chachor. Koi international press called you. Did you international cinema Eastern Europe ne? Eastern Europe, any other American had Anna Louis Strong sketcher.
Talu Kurang by Keju Gunjin, saying Gamich, Kranchagura. Did you Kurang la the idea to the Yorick woman?
I don't know because, look, you can organization the day she told me she shimbut the Shukojuna and Yalosula Tuna by the Yorba. Chirisoba. I couldn't pure socialist communist and she checked. Turn out that Chelu Dam and that have the degree of Maris. There should be no money also. All should be kind of chibe point suminish. But it's essentially that is the trapping, but underneath is the power grab. Didn't you tell me and Lungshar Gyalo you look at Mune communist rant and you look at whatever it is foundationally Karl Marx the study that European society, the history, the things are built on it. I mean, you know, he is a great thinker, philosopher, Karl Marx. I mean, some of the tables deal Shishan in Communist Party super. Two lines or three lines, chicks over to it, and the kitchen could do. You should that Wangja Tabs, Gyalo Wangja Smiat and that Chigore, put your the Lungshar on the Wangja Smiat and the Chigore. You should the Golo at this, chicks over Pevena and the Dubu Yamanor, the Ganga Song, chicks over. Gongotara Dunga Chimere.
Cousin Gelagi in the Tendolangamdo. And to you out of the Galaton to tell me what was good.
But Galton did he had left.
And teach it over.
Cheated over your but there's no one giving CIA money.
He might have in Jim Teo Yovachilla, Sunny Chicla Guyomara, Hong Kong, the sugar in the Teo.
The map thing, you know, I knew his Galton didn't want to have anything to do the Koran bit that Shivuchik. He's like that, he drops things. Koran did see Hong Kong stock exchange deal. he wanted to really make. I swear, I know someone who saw him there. He would, and commodities that the trade now, page, he lost a huge amount of what he
Gyalo Thondup 지dan 총단 들을 녀여서
Yeah.
된다 니마 된다
네,
변낭로라 변마숑고라 변낭로라 알아당야디 로기디 근데 알아 갱이 된주기 징보당지제 디낭로라 징보성으로 쓴고도 하대 구라당지라
But that I don't know. That
건축이 남갈라 알아는 프랑스 똥한 징보당지 성으로 쓴고다
but there is some picture in the Tungre. Ramsar Timaka Gruba.
알아요 지게 알아래서
Marcus Pevet did you less all the Chige Arad, well, like Dina and Johnny Walker, whiskey, the Perusil, could have the total monks and all the Changtung Estai or Martha. Whiskey to Gary. The Inija, the comedy, Casa Lugang paid to Lugang Church was doused. He ate it, didn't whiskey, thought quite conservative. But the thing is, see, we have to really narrow your thinking. You can't have everything. Right? And that left like left ke har phe to ya ngacho pheba to dugu tam ji pasha ra e jana ra jemi kona karche the most people killed in the world ra you put World War I and II together don't be ne jana mang se e koi ma ke je marta mi civilian deaths ra in Mao Zedong romanticized Xia the Xie Guo were the Kunza romantic that's why the young go for it even now. Give it you.
I knew what you sloped a lady motorcycle ready in so touch.
No, I sort of like, but so much of it is romanticism, and I don't have to kangal or you know. And Lungshar de Pebe the Chigar down of like the Lona the dinner. But you know, and but still, I have admiration here. And Lungshar Konang said the Konang justifies in the down of Butina do. So I don't blame that also. So you try to see them in the best light possible, right?
Pay information source sketches chagura. Take up courage when intention career to check consultani kalagan so but
no, but the day is but you can't go write history like that. Then you need basically in history now written sources manner understory. Right? Gossip ta kaja ta susapam in among emotion that the day tone driven discussions that they tone serious you can't take that sort of thing, right? And then you know, Pepana Zoya came and get a car lang, which is right. The Sunday and the had the Lungshar get the chick had the shoe. Never tango down of like a test temper. Koran tape dinal chick Lungshar corner, chick penal modernized so chicky, tango down of a few lines, Shirata Yomar. Then I had the gold scene going to better Lungshar bit Pebe, hero, Yene, Mene Koran, gold scene tape tabu dinner. And the thing I catch Tango Shin Zables, article of Ming Daddy, Karsa, Tebdian Nabo in the say, gold scene. That's what I think his book is rubbish, you know. I mean, he does a lot of research. News Mungudu, but some evidence to the path to Dikurba. Dipomendo. And Po Mazai, he is not a historian. He's an anthropologist, right? Which is a kind of recent discipline. Right? Historians are and history law. You don't see any reference to world history anywhere.
In a ching injugi migi loguni yeni marta logutiguura. And I've been the echoes of forgotten mountain. The Mangoji migi logu down Dunima Yenchi take your roster, do marva.
But that is these are formal interviews.
The
interview chigiyos, and it dig and dinner part to tea, It is the pineal range, and you have to make sure that when you're interviewing someone that he is sort of. Dinane kasha interview chesala Quran kaji di peje Quran lochinji di excited chebe kaje re dondor de kasha shawarta. You have to, even if you use that, you have to put it in the context. Chesa nge handa di puba interview chebe daram sal yorba. Quran yema handa di mangam zingbe luju do Quran papa nyamdo. He was a teenager. So he was very excitable. Puba person Dharamsala nyama tira lengu lega chinga. Quran didire mangam ge puba person kera chimbu the youngest son re. So you have to qualify what you're saying. Even if you are using that interview, you have to use it in a Midi lo chunju re Quran did excitable too, but chene it's important that you hear what he's trying to say, right? Even if you have to look at it differently. So dine majana dina ne pu phame ko shaya dita it's always dil chunju chigyo marta. Right. But you have to say, look, you can't use that as your primary source, right? So then history, and the thing is, okay, I am a university history lab in the Manda. I'm primarily self-taught, but I've read everything there is to read. Forget Tibetan stuff. Classical history, American history, all the kind of this American Civil War. I'm expert American Civil War now. I've got 20, 30 books. It's important. It's important you read other histories also, and then you can see your history in a kind of comparative. So she go to law, and that's the problem with Goldstein. He's never read anything beside Lhasa history, you know. He doesn't know anything. You know. And sometimes you just concentrate on those things. Gossip, you lose the bigger picture. Because in all societies, you have that on the power level. In Kennedy, I'm a president of White House, Marilyn Monroe, actress, but the American history book, Kennedy got to the Marilyn Monroe, Paris, that you know these things are going on, but you have to talk of policy that there. Goldstein getting a reading or reading a girlfriend that didn't go to park or So I mean, those people are not. I don't really sort of consider Goldstein a real historian. That document manguchi chair, that's important. And Koran the interview manguchi which the mangche to Koran interview chair. He's used Tibetan the Pepe the scholar that they pay Sarong Penjola there are 2 or 3 others he's used them to interview. The Bernale, the Nani Gabu, the interview.
Chicken Canada number, Toronto number.
Really? What's Shegalingba?
Shegalingba. Shegalingba, that Kundu do Chara.
Crank Pala.
Kinagi meets in Angola, Tajami. Anzu did up the Bhuchung chair or shot and the Chini Kotundo to Shanima, Kinaki, Tonara Chiche, Nimangula kitchen.
Record chair.
River. Record round chair.
Tangrani, which?
Then to record chicken to archive round now.
I don't belong to a university or organization. It's just private, but of course I interviewed all these people, First thing I chill do thing did you tape cassette players in you know. Did it?
think that what per chige
Not your got in your
the Paris to
74.
ingol mara
Huh?
Paris to din zungol mara
Let's see. Paris the jail.
Paris the chela Paris the sound mission to
73 the logic there. But then that was a great thing education for me because pige not training the it's somewhere like a training plus pige gigantic the Toulouse University Ghana tol cabach this technologists ko tebe kashi tisari ko Ghana 공대 도단 돈 빼면서 cabach 자게 하고 싶어도 예의하고도 공예만 베트남도 말라 근데 France 그냥 콜로니 마셔고네 레지에도 그래서 그 자게 비결도 베트남 생에만 자게 이거 봐. right. 그래서 그 제가 그 자게 하고도 예의요. 그 내수 싫어고 줘. 제가 가난이 그가 나와 툭스.
do kena kunga ga
I was about 19 20 into
kunga issues la
that could but in teen right. Yana Communist Party structure dusre he gave me all the basics history that was ganga so I mean I had pretty good then also he taught me what to read where to get it from material right Yana thought Dharamsala they didn't have material Time magazine law Far Eastern Economic Review that the magazine but then I realized chilo sauce and you got some are free United States government ke they and the Hong Kong na legun stuyor chimbuch stuyor the Ghana choyunge Hong Kong ra yunge 인지 신게 대의하고 신게 너 내가 돼요 디나 가르쳐 손들 내가 디 every bit of information 사바 from 야나 city 동기 가봐 이내 가르쳐 흉복 간가 여봐 홍콩 레이어로 맞아 니 혼자 translate 지고 인지나 so 야나 개용 그 사바 가르쳐 유럽든서 간가 혼자 translate 체제 and the bind 체제 photocopy gemne 탭도 그것인데 수거 every week 된 거다 다네 가르쳐 그랬었나 네 I thought that 가지고 배배선 또 무유 쉬비스테 그런 거다 네 professor 디사 가서 가게 하면서 이게 you just write to this address and you just say I am a scholar you know I'm studying communist China and 네 가장 읽고 캐나다 가리고 땅으로 쳤어 I wrote to them 딱 맞죠 every week is coming free so 변할래 미처 고마서 내지 내조강 안저 주고 다른 사람들 people didn't know so the China 그 캐나다 롱바 같이 쉐야도 과상해 그리고 아 니네 안도 디다 raw material로 봐 비게 라나 홍콩 라나 리서치 차타이니요 즉 이슈를 남아져 너무네 캐나다에 그 자게지 그 내주 차선 고쪽으로 그 gem이 뭔고 인터뷰 체제 그 weekly나 그 디스팅 거 newsletter China news analysis 해줘 that you have to pay a little shira 말이야 근데 네 Bhuchung 주제 딜랭 거 내가 우수 잡는 거 딜랭 다 디날 he was the top man 야날 목에 주고 콧 당벌에 아메리카 캘린 지금 하버드에서 가게 돼서 너는 야날 목에 요식 말했어 마오쩌둥 드네 말 마오쩌둥 군스테 bet agrarian reformer 야고 신데레스 던저때 준 dictators 더 말이 시거 하버드네 시거다 하버드 기 차이나 디파트먼트 거 사자 그 프로페서 치션 the issue lamad siga ma jana mogi and Hong Kong the new Pearl River the man ro for him she was killing this to and of course all the people are running away right to saya ma so then the American Harvard concept ngele I knew what was going on in China I get in there
ne tenda di commute chile ra ne pela tenda di Paris la secret mission chora di ye khare mission so khar to chawo
Persian Mughal Didi American CIA ki chairwa. Chair
아니 디디로 가서
주식하고.
신지 군주 제라로
주식한도 서포트야 ngana 저 로마가서
로직주기 내주디 제라로
그래 대치 디 제일과.
니 제라
제가 디버루 되는 말 알로나 요래. 디 로나 유튜 갸도원도 konto nga tengba chik de tang chu khasa Kathmandu ditu ne che American ki di che gyor American che je tak pheba chola American ngu doctor te gyor instrument sum te shija chu ya ta su industry ta dinde yor ba khar chu na kena chu ta mami kena chu so pi chi gores ma ga ra la mami ni je sum je chi konto di support che 제가 걔도 온데 나 카트만두로 시험도 가 로마라니 카트만두로 콘즈비게 디디
딘지 딘닝월라 제라
this 상해인데 I have to check also 디디 딘지 no 딘지 버르 디 콘즈 택시 서비스 수야죠 카트만두 먼저 때 된다다 뭔가 지가 알았어 사가다 택시 서비스 딜 paperwork 동안 이 paperwork 제가 줬어. you know. 이제 신기해 그거. 나 무엇을 해서 간만도 paperwork 강 네팔이 나를. 네팔이 깨다 신기해서 this past. 막 깨야고 신기해. So this and I can read some Hindi. So we did it on 타마데야 걔도 좀 어떻게 네팔 고기상 쇼송도스 ngane ko je dunjir ngal lo ma gal lo ni tros khali khom sa ska bige ta ma dharam sa to so dharam sa la mi di ku ma ga da no chigo mare 아메리카에 군들이 정을 피우거든 전주 슝댕우 때스러거든 디 인디나는 군들을 피우거든 디 당보대 CIA가 제야디 슈고마도 제야 말이야. 안도 군디디. 데들 때 헨리 키슨저 그 제프사. 그래서 또 대스쿨에 가고 와. 군디스다. 그래서 디 디퍼루데 땅 하나 중국 탑시치도 분들라 건조되게 디디 던져 건조 지금 우수냐 뭐 가면 알디도 우수다잖아. 툭배가리. 그 스플릿 제 두자. 마이 여비어 데스 산점라 그래서 디디 디체샤 가서 더 우르수길라 kuchinga zu robot 나라나스 봐. 더 우르수기 데스 간주 사회 내주인데 뭐이 지금 지바지 담아도 양고 좋으면도 걔도 원두게 트라이 셰프 카트만두 디 안데 KGB 군주 밑에와죠. 제가 딱 버르데 게르름 붙인 간주 라마 경고야 알아? 라마 디디디 he was secretary of the parliamentary group for Tibet 세죠. 야가기 member of parliament 알아? 벽 잡혀칭해요. 알아? 디나는 강가 opposition 그 parliament. स्वतंत्र पार्टी त जनता त जनसंघ त सँगै
제피 나리안 콘조 갑스라
콘저 강게 디 초과 congress에 요디나 congress 콘저 야 가시 배바도 잡혀요. 콘저 때 몽고치기 group 수요. parliamentary group for Tibet state. And the secretary di gerum치. Bhuchung 샤브. And 그 강버르지 요들. That's my bedroom 진이지. So Rinpoche, then he goes to Kasure, embassy parties and the Dugurwata. He's part of that group. Then Pigachig Nimadoachi. Party Chignal, French military attaché. Kusan Ligo me red one. Konto Nimbo Cameras Nana. And Koya Gadger Shech, then Pebato Des Kako you the Hakosado. CIA Chig. And question I cannot to Nezur and the Ganzola to dare to Gurbas. Yanaton. And he get him say and the ding. He was very smart. And of course he said it's possible. But then they said that did that and the Tesan Gana Marta did you? Ditu rigne sache juk. Jana kunja sun, but it's like North Korea le dugdu dur. Chige langa gana mi dosa yo mar. Demi ganga tejur shimde. Right? Tulo jobu chunga. Di kunji de chi chonga gaga na jala peji yo mar. Chonga se mungu yo mar. Sip man. Jana pat ra. You can't send soba dansa yo mar. And so they kunjus that the cancer Americans or American information out there. Bebe. Ngara so let the tetu and ganju peru chong. They will provide some kind of support, money support, so that we can set up networks. Sanzamurba. That Chennai di Chengyal Thambo they said you have to send us one of your officers. Ganju briefing share training 가르치고 주네. Because the system the law American style legun chetanga. And did ngatang.
가지고라.
그래. And 남진은 embarrassing. I did 007 군디 기념도 제가 주초스가 로카싱에. 근데 군디 콘도 쉐비지 세점다 건들 소스. 미팅 아주 그냥 뭐 파리스라 프랑스라 가서 소바들다스. 이게 이인다다 제가.
디디 네즈야 믹스에 염세문데 가르쳐 주면.
제가 대지시부 at least I got some training in sinology and it basically spycraft 봐. 아 시라리 that French subway 된다나래 두기 처음 거래네. 그 건조 꾸블링 거야. 써봤던 거래. So you have to train how to avoid 봐. 이제 the subway barrier no kind of chom really peru the mongo the mongo yorta but that's one of the training dam mena mongo ya kon setaya ta kya ye thep lo mi dunga ni kariya ye kal ke
니 버루들라 니 배터리 디 저기가.
are you recording nge 이지 mongo 시비 되고 dunga 제가 그냥 누가 까는 거
디타 난다 요만.
아니 다 가서 아니 갑시면 지게 왔어